Join Clark Lunt and David Shaw for the Burn Your Boats Timely 10, where they share insights on the latest real estate investing trends, market conditions, and statistics. Stay updated on the industry with these expert hosts and learn how to create wealth through smart investments.
All right, Clark, welcome to the Timely 10. Right. You are not in your normal podcast studio, Clark. Where are you?
I am not. I am sitting in the lounge at the Panama City, Panama airport, and my flight was delayed by 2 hours. I think we were the only flight that was delayed there on the board. So here I sit in the lounge enjoying my free coffees and free bagels right now. So
well, we've all been through it.
Could be worse, David. We have.
Oh, we
hey,
get
it's only 2 hours, right? So it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, we get a chance to record our weekly Timely 10, which I thought we were not going to get to record today. So, today we're going to talk about just something actionable for people who are out there and they're trying to, figure out the path. What we're going to talk about is our favorite books and our favorite podcasts that have made a fairly big impact in our lives. Okay. And it's important because, we are all in our cars these days. We all have an opportunity to educate ourselves from kind of morning, quite frankly, from morning till night. And so what we're going to talk about is these big impact podcasts and books. And I'll take a crack at it. Clark, you take a crack at it and see where we're at, right? So Clark, in preparation for this, you mentioned a bunch of books in particular, and I'll go through a bunch of podcasts because I've got 3 kids. And the one thing that kids want most is attention, and very difficult to actually hold a physical book in your hand and also have children in your life. And so, when I do get to a book, it's usually an audio book. But podcasts, from good sources, they're just the right size, and if you have a good repertoire of podcasts, you can always be educating yourself. So Clark, why don't you get started? You're the one that might have to go and jump on a plane right now. So why don't you get started and tell me some of the big books and big podcasts have made a fairly big impact on your life and why?
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember I was telling you about this, is that I saw someone post on Facebook about, give me the 10 best books or podcasts that I need to read. And so I've answered that post, and I just went through my Audible list. And by the way, I'm not reading any physical books either. So I'm listening to all this stuff on Audible. But I gave my top 10, and I literally just, copied it and put it on the Facebook post. Didn't really think much of it. And then I looked at it later on, and I was like, and it was a real estate post. And I discovered that there wasn't one book about real estate, and it like almost made me fall out of my chair. So I'm just going to run through a few Audible books that I've really enjoyed, and they've kind of helped me to see the world through a different view. And so I'll start now. So in terms of like business sales books, I think sales is important for all of us, and I think everyone should read this book about 100 times. And it's called Never Split the Difference. And it is by far, it's like my sales Bible. I read it about every 6 to 12 months because I'm always picking up something new. And it's if you want to get better at sales and you want to be able to understand people, Never Split the Difference. And that rolls into How to Win Friends and Influence Others, or Influence People, by Dale Carnegie. Everyone should read this book. I don't care whether you're in sales, whether you are a secretary, whether you are out there in the field, or you're the president of a company. I think that How to Win Friends and Influence People just really helps you to understand, step in someone else's shoes and try and look at it through their point of view. It gives you more empathy. Another one is Go Giver. It really talks a lot about being able to give first, and with the idea that you can still give, and it can be a business idea. It doesn't just have to be charity. Okay, so Go Giver, I love. Just a life book, 4 Agreements. Talks about the 4 agreements of life. I'm not going to go into them right now, but it's really cool. Is if you live by these 4 agreements, you will live a happier life. Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think everyone should read that book. It just helps to get you on repeatable consistency in your life, in business, in your health, in your relationships, and all of that. And also, too, in entrepreneurship is such a roller coaster. that there's a lot of downtimes. There's a lot. It's a lonely ride sometimes, and it's lonely at the top, and it's also even more lonely at the bottom. So I think it's good sometimes to be able to read other books, to see that not everyone else is out there just crushing it, and you're the only one that's having a
Right.
downtime. Go read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. And you'll see that he had a lot of lows before he ever got to the top of the mountain, which is where he's at now. And then a couple of podcasts, David, I'll just go through them fairly quickly, is a new one that I started following is called Action Academy by Brian Lubin. He was on Brandon Turner's podcast recently as a guest.
Very,
I
very
really
good.
like him. He's relatable. He just seems like a cool guy. He's out there. He's planting the seeds. He's digging ditches every day. He's got a few different businesses he's running, and he interviews other people. And it's just, there's something too about just being able to listening to someone. They're just easy to listen to. I'm big into looking and learning about investing abroad. And Nomad Capitalist is my favorite podcast to listen to, about just learning about different areas in the world, saving on taxes, what's the currency like all those different things. So they help to kind of break it down for you. And then in terms of real estate podcasts, I like Ken McElroy's podcast is very good. I feel like he gives a good broad sense of everything. And although he owns about 10 million apartment units, I feel like he's very relatable. And he speaks to the guy that maybe only has one rental property, right? And he doesn't like talk down to you like you're just, oh, you're so far behind the times if you don't own 1,000 rentals. There's some people that tend to have that that kind of thought process, which I don't really appreciate it. Last one I'll leave you with, David, is that, we're always trying to build our brand. So we're trying to figure out what the hell's going on with how to build YouTube and social media and all the different things. I've started listening to one recently called Creator Club, and it's just about how to help your branding, your social media following, podcasts, what we're on right now. So that's just a quick list that I have of things that kind of help to, the ongoing things with the podcast, but also too, don't just listen to podcasts, in my opinion, because there's so much good information and so much stuff on Audible, and just, obviously the old school paperback books where your kids are bugging you while you're trying to read those. So those are the ones. So David, this is the time we tend, so we're kind of going through this quickly. Tell us a little bit about what's picking your brain these days.
Well, you know what? I couldn't agree with you more on the book thing. Somebody who's done something usually for 20, 30 years takes the time to sit down and put everything they know into a book that you can buy for $20. It's possibly
Right.
the best investment you could possibly make in yourself ever. So think about that. You get everything that Phil Knight went through in all of his life and his ups and downs, puts it into a book, and for $20 you can buy it. Isn't that just amazing? Right? It's just, think about it. It's so if you're not out listening to people who have experience, have something to say, and you're not out reading their books, you're doing yourself a disservice, quite frankly.
Yeah,
if you're listening to, it's funny. I, go to the gym, or I do this or do that in your day-to-day life. And I'm not saying there's not a place for music. I love music. But, if you've got like an hour, spend an hour listening to something revolutionary, So that was a great list. And it's funny that you brought up Never Split the Difference and How to Win Friends and Influence People, because I use those methodologies on parenting my kids. When I'm stuck in a jam and I'm like, how do I get the kids to eat their breakfast, put their shoes on, listen to me? I go straight back in how to win friends and influence people. I'm like, okay, let me put myself in their shoes and kind of take it from there. And so these are not real estate books. These are not even business books. No. You can implement these strategies with your 3-year-old and your 5-year-old and your 8-year-old. So these are life books. And if you haven't listened to them, do yourself a big favor and do so. So listen, I'm going to go through, I'm mainly a podcast guy at the moment. And I think we all go through phases, but I listen to kind of 4 main categories of podcasts. And I tend to go deep into podcasts for a certain period of time when I'm personally pivoting in my life, right? So when I want to learn something, I'll get deeply into a podcast genre. I won't listen to just one guy. So obviously, if you're listening to this, you're probably interested in podcasts about real estate. And so, look, we all know the big real estate podcasts. we know Keith Weinhold. I like Keith. I know him well. Obviously, the Bigger Pockets guys are good. You know, Ken McElroy, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a great podcast. On the Market, it's another Bigger Pockets,
Yeah.
brand. But my number one all-time real estate podcast by a mile is a podcast called Onward, and it's made by Ben Miller, and he's a CEO of Fundrise. He's the number one brain and voice and opinion in the podcast world that I respect. So I hope that Ben Miller listens to this podcast, which I doubt very much. But Onward, absolute must listen to if ever you are looking for a real estate podcast that is giving you the real meat and potatoes about what's going on now, what's going on really deep inside the institutional guts of the real estate market, and what the scenarios. He's a great scenario planner, and so he's planning out scenario A, B, and C. So Onward in the real estate section. I'm also to our last podcast, we were talking about being 23 again. I'm really, really, really trying to immerse myself in learning how to buy businesses now. And so if you haven't read Buy Then Build, go do that
for sure.
kind of right away. It's just an essential if you're looking to acquire and scale, if you have some capital and you're looking to grow your life with a merger or an acquisition. Look for Acquisitions Anonymous. It's a great podcast they analyze how to buy small businesses. Also a podcast called Buy a Business, right? Absolutely brilliant podcast. And they delve each week. They'll take some podcast or some businesses on the market, and they'll dig deep into what the offering is. And it's just a mine. It's a mine of information. Also, Let's Buy a Business podcast. So the Let's Buy a Business podcast is brilliant if you're into, those three podcasts. I listen to them fairly routinely, and in the buying a business genre. Also, I am very, very interested in real estate debt and note buying, to the performing and non-performing notes. And so I listen to Noteworthy, great podcast. If you're interested in that space, it's absolutely brilliant. The Note Closers show, absolutely brilliant in the note space. But The Note Investor with Scott Carson, my number one note podcast. And if you don't know what a note is, it's a mortgage. And essentially you could go and you could buy mortgages on people's properties. And then you can, instead of the bank taking the mortgage interest, you're taking the mortgage interest, and you can buy these mortgages at a discount. And so if you've got money in your world and you want to learn how to grow residual income, no tenants, no toilets, no stress, no hassle, hand the whole thing over to a servicing company. The note business is a great way to build up residual income, where you're not getting into the tenants and toilets of real estate. Now, also, I listen to a lot of just kind of general business podcasts, and my number one business podcast is Second in Command, by Cameron Harold. Absolutely brilliant podcast about how to organize a business, how to look at a business, how to grow and scale a business. And so, Cameron Harold is just a thought leader in how to scale businesses. Also, The Diary of a CEO. If you are not listening to that podcast, it is absolutely wonderful. He has some of the best guests out there, by Stephen Bartlett. So it's called DOAC, Diary of a CEO, by Stephen Bartlett. Really, really great podcast. If you're not listening to Alex Hermosi, The Game with Alex Hermosi, great podcast. And the Matt Gray Show.
That's a good one.
Showing millionaires how to make, $10 million. So if you want to scale yourself from, let's say you've had a modicum of success and you want to scale, let's say your first million to 10 million. Not that everybody's there. I know a lot of people are just trying to get to that first 100,000. That's fine. But Matt Gray is an essential listen for me. And so, honestly, I like the Cody Sanchez podcast. I mentioned it recently. The struggle isn't real.
Yeah.
Life doesn't have to be hard. Life doesn't have to be hard. You can go, you can acquire good businesses and move forward with your life. So look, there's a lot more podcasts that we listen to. And finally, just one that I listen to that is not business or real estate related is your undivided attention with Tristan Harris. If you've seen The Social Dilemma, you'll understand, and I'm fascinated by this topic, is, what is, social media and the attention economy, and what impact is that having on the world? What impact is that having on politics, on children, on humans, on human interaction, and everything associated with that? So your undivided attention has opened my mind. So I don't talk about politics ever with anybody anymore. I talk about where the politics is coming from, what's downstream of your anger, who's benefiting
Yep.
from it, who is monetizing it, who's monetizing your attention, how and why. So your undivided attention in a non-real estate world, just from a personal growth perspective, to really understand what's happening in the world, by Tristan Harris is my number one. So look, we're at 15
Love
minutes
it.
now. We wanted to just do a quick brain dump here and give you an idea of the podcasts we listen to, the genres we listen to, why we listen to them. And Clark, you're in the airport. How are you getting on? Is your flight taking off yet?
I'm looking at a lot of sad faces sitting down here waiting for our flight that hopefully isn't delayed again. But I'll want to leave, David, with something that you hit on, and I want everyone listening to this, is that whether you take our podcasts or books or whatever, or you find your own, which we certainly recommend, is that you need to, when you get in the car and you crank that car up, if you're driving more than 5 or 10 minutes, I stopped listening to music a long time ago in my car. And people say, well, David, I don't have time. You just rattled off like 20 podcasts. Who has time to do that? Well, you actually have a lot more time than you think about, because you're driving 30 minutes to work every day, or you're driving to the gym for 20 minutes, or you're driving to pick the kids up at daycare. That's 20 minutes right there. That's a half episode right there on a lot of podcasts. So there is time. You do have the time to be able to get this kind of additional information. And it's just up to you. It just depends on if you want to make excuses and say, I don't have time, or if you want to actually take away some of the time and not listen to that Spotify playlist and go listen to something that's going to be more productive in your headspace.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's a lot of jobs around the house that I don't like doing. The cleaning the kitchen at the end of the day. If you've got 3 kids,
Yep.
and you're a parent, you'll know what I'm talking about, right? This isn't an ordinary clean. This is like Thanksgiving cleanup, right? Every day of your life. And so, when my wife, she works at getting the kids settled down, getting their teeth brushed and all that kind of jazz. And I get, do
Yep.
a pretty forensic clean at the end of every day. And I enjoy it, because I just, move into one of these podcasts. I learn a great deal. And then when my wife comes downstairs from getting the kids to bed, like I'll say, I just listened to a great podcast, and it stimulates more meaningful and meaty conversations, even within my own relationship. So I know you and I are tossing podcasts to each other, and it's like, you must listen to this and you must listen to that. So much great information out there. So if you don't, we listed off a few, but if you have a group of friends, like a WhatsApp group or whatever, try and create a podcast or a book group with some like-minded people. To say, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to set up a little podcast or a little WhatsApp group here. If you have something of meaning and that we want to share, pop it in here. No recriminations. Just pop it in, and if you think it's good, we'll all take a listen to it. Now we can feed in and have a chat about it. So go educate yourself. I can tell you that almost everybody I know who is wealthy from real estate podcasted their way in there or read their way in there. They didn't just know how. They got the courage and they got the, I can do this, from a podcast or from books, and most likely a combination of both. So listen, Clark, safe home, safe travels. Right? And we will talk to you on our next episode. Is out on Monday. We're going to do an episode on partnerships. What makes a good partnership? What makes a bad partnership? Always remember, the inverse of good is bad. So we kind of walk through what is bad and what to look out for, and then what's good. And so our next episode is about partnerships, how to grow them, how to create them, and what to look for when you're setting them up, and what kind of guardrails to put in place when you're setting up business partnerships and what expectations to set up. So with that all being said, have a great weekend and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Signing off from Panama City. Go subscribe to us, guys. Burn Your Boats Wealth. Hit the like button. Any comments you have, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to the Timely 10. Be sure to click the like button and share, and connect with us on social media. Content in Burn Your Boats podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not legal or financial advice. Please review our legal disclaimer at burnyourboatswealth.com.